many people say they're burnout because they're doing too much, but they're really just doing too little of what brings them joy. Have to experience burnout to reach a breakthrough that leads to setting boundaries. But what I would like to do today is I'd like you to shift that. I want you to completely reverse that mindset. And I want you to set boundaries so that you can have more breakthroughs to prevent burnout altogether. Welcome back, you guys, to another episode of the Beyond the Skill podcast. I'm your host, Katherine, and today we are talking about the 3 B's. We are talking about burnout, breakthrough, and boundaries. And you hear the word burnout a lot. And as a mom, I get it. A lot of times the other B too, busy. We're just so busy being busy, which leads to burnout. And a lot of times it's we're just too busy doing the wrong things. And I heard the other day that many people say they're burnout because they're doing too much, but they're really just doing too little of what brings them joy. It's like your plate is so full, but it's full of all the wrong foods. It's nothing that you want to eat. It's nothing that you want to take a bite of. You want to remove that broccoli and plop on the mashed potatoes. I have totally been there. And sometimes you have to experience burnout to reach a breakthrough that leads to setting boundaries. But what I would like to do today is I'd like you to shift that. I want you to completely reverse that mindset. And I want you to set boundaries so that you can have more breakthroughs to prevent burnout altogether. I personally, I'm about to get pretty personal with you guys. I experienced burnout so bad. After having my second child, and I had my second fitness studio going at the time. And the reason why I experienced this significant burnout is because I had set no boundaries. So I had no room for any breakthroughs. I felt completely stuck. I felt numb. I felt paralyzed. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where to go from there. And it wasn't until I made a very permanent decision based on burnout that I had a breakthrough. And I realized if only I had the systems and if I had worked on delegating and setting boundaries with my family, with my team, and with my life, that I could have avoided the burnout, which has led me to where I am today, which in all honesty, I'm glad it happened because I learned from it. It taught me a lesson. It wasn't a fun season. And today I want to help you avoid having seasons like that. Some seasons of life are unavoidable, but let's try to limit them when we can by establishing those boundaries. So before we go into the boundaries, what is burnout? Burnout shows up differently for everyone. So there's, signs of burnout. There's physical signs. You're feeling tired all the time. You don't want to get out of bed. You have a low immune system, frequent headaches, backaches, neck pains, just body aches. You're just not feeling like yourself. Change in appetite. You're either eating all the time or you're not hungry at all. You're not sleeping well. There's just so many physical signs of burnout. And a lot of times, we chalk it up to something else. We say, oh, it's my, fibromyalgia acting up, or, oh, it's the hip pain that I experienced from being a runner back in the day. There's all these things that we blame it on. And a lot of times we don't point to ourselves and say, it's what's going on in here. It's just the emotional burnout that's showing up physically. And so emotionally too, when we're burnout, we have self-doubt, we have low confidence, we feel hopeless, we feel helpless, we feel detached, we have decreased motivation. We're not feeling inspired to do anything. We have an increasingly negative outlook on life in every situation. We are not as satisfied and we're not feeling accomplished. An example of this would be if you're working on a special project at work or a special project at home and you're really focused on it, but you're not feeling happy, you're not feeling joy while you're working on it. And then when you finish the project or you meet the goal, you're just There's no sense of accomplishment. A lot of times that's because you're just completely burnt out right now. You're burnt out on life. There is no flame. It's been completely blown out. Another sign of burnout is withdrawing from responsibilities, procrastinating. This is the behavioral side. It's wanting to isolate yourself. Maybe you're naturally an extrovert, but you're feeling like an introvert lately. Like you just want to hide inside your house. And I know that COVID did this for a lot of us. And it's been many, many years since COVID, but we're all still struggling from some of the effects of isolating ourselves for so long that we're having trouble getting back into society. And we're just not showing up as the person that we once were or the person that we want to be because we're feeling so physically and emotionally burnt out and drained of all of our energy. And that right there is the key, is we're spending time, a lot of us, on so many things that are draining our energy, that, we're draining our cup, we're dumping out our cup and we're not filling it up. We're not spending our time doing things that bring us energy and bring us joy. Another thing that shows up during burnout is like skipping out on work, skipping out on workouts. When you're feeling mentally and physically exhausted by your workload, by the mother load, by anything that's stressing you out in life, you don't want to go to the gym. You don't want to meal prep. You don't want to do any of that. You want to plop your hiney on the couch, prop your feet up, and you just want to isolate yourself in a pint of ice cream. Like, I get it. I have been there. And so that's kind of how I would describe burnout. That's burnout in a nutshell. Those are some symptoms that I've experienced. So to get out of burnout and to avoid it altogether, we have to work on setting boundaries. Boundaries help you define what you are comfortable with and how you would like to be treated by others and how you want to treat yourself. Because we want to treat ourselves with love, right? We want to be kind to our body and to our mind. We want to respect ourselves. I heard the other day that boundaries are like a bridge to where you want to go. And I thought that was so beautiful. Don't look at boundaries as a negative thing. Think of it as like a roadmap or a set of rules for your life and how you're going to get there. And there are boundaries when it comes to your physical health and your mental health. And a problem that I am seeing most of us having right now when it comes to setting boundaries is that we don't have a lot of quiet time. We don't have a lot of time alone. And even when we are alone, we have our phone on, we're scrolling, we're listening to something. We're not quiet with ourselves ever. We are overloaded with information. And we have to set boundaries in order to go to deeper levels when it comes to our mental and physical space. So if we're constantly surrounded by social media and outside influences, we don't even know where to start when it comes to boundaries because we haven't gotten quiet enough to ask ourselves what we want in life and what we value most. Let's talk about some boundaries that we need to set and that we need to evaluate today. First, let's talk about time boundaries. So how you are spending your time. Are you allocating specific times for yourself when it comes to your workouts, when it comes to meditation or R&R? Are you setting time aside for your own mental and physical health? You need to be mapping this out. And that's how you set a boundary when it comes to reaching your goals with your health and fitness. On Sundays, what I do is I look at my calendar in my Google calendars here on my phone. I look and see what I have coming up, and I actually make an appointment with myself when I'm doing meditation or my Fit Body workouts. So I tend to go to the 9 a.m. session at Fit Body 3 to 4 days a week, and I will put that in my calendar from 9 to 10 or from 8:45 to 10 because it takes me about 15 minutes to drive there. I do my boot camp session. I stay a few minutes after to chat with my friends, and then I drive home. And so that is the time that I have to block off for myself. I'm setting that boundary for myself and with everyone else on the outside so that I can make time for myself. There's nutritional boundaries. Say you're on a weight loss journey and you get invited to go out with your friends on the weekend. Maybe they invite you to a brewery or a wine bar or a new pastry shop in town. And you're like, I am on a weight loss journey right now. I have a plan. I'm counting calories or I'm counting macros. I really, really want to go, but I also don't want to overindulge. You have to set that boundary from the beginning. You have to actually communicate what you're doing and what your plan is to the people around you so that they know. Don't just show up and keep it in the back of your mind and keep it to yourself. Actually communicate to your friend that invited you, like, hey, I would love to come. I would love to come and join you. It's probably just going to be for conversation because I'm not drinking right now. Or I'm going to have like a half a slice of that cake, but I'm going to pass on the rest because I am sticking to my plan right now. There is no harm in doing that. You just need to communicate that to those that are around you. And you also have to just internally set that boundary and be firm with it, which leads me into my next one, social boundaries. Let's talk about drinking because a lot of people, a lot of health professionals are talking about alcohol right now. If you are not drinking or you're trying to limit your consumption, and it doesn't even have to be alcohol, it can be anything. It can be sweets, it can be certain food groups and certain things that you really enjoy that you're trying to cut out. You have to remove yourself from those situations. Like if you're constantly being asked to go to the breweries and go to the wine bars and you're struggling to reach your goals, that's going to have to be a boundary for you, that you just say no, that you say, hey, can we go for a coffee instead? Or can we go for a walk? Or can we go window shopping downtown or go to the mall? Can we go to the movies? There are so many other things that you can do. You just have to set that boundary with yourself and with the people that you're spending time with and make the decision, move on, do something else. The last one I want to talk about is emotional boundaries. So as a woman, as a mom, you can get wrapped up emotionally in a lot of things. And you can become a sounding board for one of your friends or for one of your family members. And it can absolutely drain you. And while you want to be there for that person, as you want to show up as someone who loves them and cares about them, sometimes if you're on a journey and you're trying to avoid burnout, or maybe you're already there and you're trying to get yourself through it, you have to shut certain people out in order to show up as that person that you want to be. And when this happens, don't feel like you have to avoid that person. You just need to be open. You need to communicate what's going on and tell them, I'm here for you. I love you. But right now I'm going through my own stuff and I just can't show up today and be that sounding board. But here are the things that I can do for you. This is what I can offer to you. And you have to figure out what that is. I have been there. I have totally been there with family members and with friends, and it is hard and you can get sucked in real fast. And here's one thing that I've noticed. I've noticed that sometimes I will feed into a conversation or I'll serve as that sounding board for a friend. And as you're listening to them talk and as you're offering your feedback and the tips and you're coaching them through this, you think like, okay, we're going to chat for 30 minutes. I'm going to get off the phone and that's going to be it. No, that conversation follows you for the next day or the next few days or the next week. You're thinking about it. It's in your mental space and it's taking energy away from you. It's drained you of all the energy that you need to show up and be someone else in another space. So I want you to think about that. I want you to think about the environments that you put yourself in, the relationships that you have, and how you can have that emotional boundary when it comes to some of the conversations that you have with people. So by setting clear boundaries in these areas, you can create conducive environments for reaching your fitness goals while maintaining balance in all aspects of your life. And it doesn't just have to be fitness. You know, we talk a lot on the podcast about health and fitness and wellness and mindset. It can be any area. It could be financial boundaries that you're really struggling with. Like maybe you're going out to eat every single day and your significant other is saying, honey, we are trying to save money right now. I need you to cut back. I need you to start packing your lunch. Or maybe it's the Starbucks drive-thru on the way to work. Like, again, I always try to relate to you guys. I've been there. Like, my almond milk latte with a pump of sugar-free vanilla is like $6.50. And if I just cut that out a few days a week, I could go buy myself a new outfit for a date night. Like, there's so many things that we can cut out, and there's so many boundaries that we can set in our life outside of just health and fitness and our mindset. So in order to have more breakthrough moments, I talked about boundaries, and I want to define a breakthrough moment for you guys if you're listening to this and you're kind of like new to this concept. So breakthroughs are dramatic discoveries or points of realization. They are those aha moments in life. They are when everything just clicks. So if you're good at setting boundaries, aka goals with your health and fitness, you will finally get to that goal weight. When you stop drinking so much, you will finally realize who your real friends are. When you stop doing things for other people who do not do things for you in return, you'll stop feeling like you are a people pleaser and a doormat and letting people walk all over you. Those are just 3 that came to the top of my head. And I feel like some of those were a little harsh, but they're true. Like if we set these boundaries, those things will not happen. And the list goes on and on. So when you're setting those boundaries, it's just like setting goals. You have to be clear. You have to make them realistic, and you have to make them very specific. You have to clearly define if it's a health and fitness journey, it's a health and fitness boundary. You have to clearly define what you want your fitness journey to look like, and you have to set SMART goals. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals in order to get there. How can you set more boundaries today to help you avoid burnout and have more breakthroughs, have more aha moments? And when it comes to business, like for me, looking back, I used to want to do it all. Like if you're listening to this and you are a fitness business owner, you're an entrepreneur, or you just have a side hustle, or if you are a top level executive and you manage other people, sometimes boundaries in the professional world is taking things off of your plate, like I mentioned earlier, and putting it onto the plate of other people's. It's delegating. And that was one thing I was terrible at several years ago when I was starting in my fitness business ownership journey, is I wanted to do it all. And that's what led to the burnout. And then I realized, oh, I actually can't do it all mentally or physically. And that was the breakthrough that I had. And so I did have to start delegating and setting those boundaries with other people and with myself. And the time boundary was a really big one for me because I do have small children and I'm an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs like to work a lot. We work all the time. But I also love to spend time with my kids. So a boundary that I had to set was that I'm unavailable between the hours of 3 and 8 p.m. on most days. I make some exceptions if I have like a very important meeting, and I make sure that I have childcare figured out and I know where everyone's going to be. But I have a boundary pretty much every day, Monday through Friday from 3 to 8. That's the time I spend with my kids. And this is a boundary that is temporary right now because my kids are little, and there's going to become a point in their life, in my life, where they have after school activities and they're doing more and they're more self-sufficient and they're occupied. So maybe the boundary is removed, or maybe it's expanded a little bit or taken away in a way. And so I just want you to remember that my boundaries are not going to be your boundaries, and I'm never going to coach you in a way where I say like, hey, this is my boundary and it should be yours too. You have to figure out what's going on in your life, what's stressing you out, what are your stressors? What are the things on your plate that you don't want to take a bite of anymore? How can we get those off? How can we put more chocolate-covered strawberries on there? And how can we do more of that to show up in as your best self and to experience more joy in life? So that's all I have for you guys. Remember, I am always in your corner, and I'm helping you to be the best version of yourself. And that's what we all should strive to be every single day. So until next time, you guys, and if you got value from this episode, please subscribe to our channel, follow us on Apple Podcast and Spotify, and share this episode with all of your friends. Thanks so much.